Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, October 27th, and this week, Japan lifts its ban. How much do drivers actually make? And Uber goes self-driving. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. Great to be back. It's been a while. I'm stumbling over my words already. I got to get practice back in.
I was going to say, it has been a hot minute since we've done this. But, as always, it's a highlight of my week for sure, because the stories are never ending and there's always something. That's all I can say. It's always something. So let's go right into it. We're going to go into Monday. Interesting. I didn't even know this until just very recently that Japan may lift its ban on ride sharing. Now, this is from Bloomberg, and they reported, quote, facing a shortage of drivers and shrinking options for transportation, the Japanese government is moving toward lifting its ban on ride sharing, a move that could open the door for Uber and its rivals to expand services. So basically, the number of drivers in the taxi industry have declined about 20% since 2019. And then looser regulations on ride sharing could make travel more convenient for inbound travelers in depopulated areas. This is interesting. I don't know how it's going to affect the country. I do know that they, as a country, they're definitely more strict on regulations than the United States are.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens here. I found it most interesting that the taxi industry was declining on its own. When in the US, we saw that the taxi industry was declining mostly when Uber and Lyft showed up. And it looks like in Japan, those drivers were voluntarily, for whatever reason, leaving the taxi industry before Uber and Lyft put their foot in the door. So I don't know if that's COVID related, that people chose different professions, got out of transportation, but it sounds like the country is in great need of more transportation options. So that's where rideshare is going to hopefully come in and fill the void.
Yeah, you're right. They don't really say in the article why they declined. It's just sort of they just stopped driving taxis. It'd also be curious, because they're kind of they're trying to get in the door here. And Japan is a very technically advanced country to begin with. I just wonder if they also might start pushing autonomous there earlier.
Could be. It could be an opportunity to test some of the vehicles out and hopefully work in collaboration with some of the current infrastructure in terms of the taxi drivers that may be looking for more work or maybe looking to transition to rideshare. So like you said, it could be an opportunity for AV. It could be an opportunity to make just transportation a little more seamless for everybody in the country, drivers and commuters alike.
Right. Yeah, I definitely want to stay tuned into the story, see where it progresses, see if it happens. We're going to head into Tuesday. If you think you spent a lot of money on Amazon, Amazon paid $350,000 for fake meals and entertainment. This is a ridiculous story. This is from Forbes. They reported, quote, every other month, Amazon runs an introduction event for new executives called Escape Velocity. And there's usually big speakers there, including, founder Jeff Bezos and CEO Andy Jassy, as well as training, happy hours, and food. It's a costly event to run. Typically, this event costs up to $350,000. Now, what's odd about this specific event that was looked at is that it never happened. It was a virtual event during COVID, and apparently one of the employees of Amazon decided to expense a non-event event. And then after the FBI was told by the three companies that, hey, we have no record of being at this event, the investigators looked into her various outgoing, financed in part by the expenses, which reached up to $410,000. According to the search warrants reviewed by Forbes, it included a $55,000 Land Rover, 3 Chanel bags, and now all this has been seized by the FBI. So apparently Amazon's employee had a field day with this one, Bryant.
It really looks that way. I can't imagine how a Chanel bag would be at all related to her employment. So that
Yeah.
was a bit presumptuous on her part to think that she would get away with that. I think this really just goes to the fact that it took them so long to uncover it. It shows that these companies are just spending so much money on so many things that are unnecessary that when something like this happens, they either they overlook it entirely, or they take years to find it. So um, my takeaway from this story is all of these companies, whether it's Amazon, Uber, whatever, they spend so much money, and a lot of the times they talk about how hard it is to make a profit, and how they need less regulation here or more regulation there, whatever it is, because poor us. Well, if they did a better job keeping track of their own books, maybe it would be easier to keep money in their coffers.
Yeah, very well said. It's totally ridiculous. Let's head into Wednesday. Speaking of money, how much do drivers really make? We talk about this all the time, and Business Insider has brought it back up. And they reported, quote, over the last few years, studies have come to a wide range of conclusions about the driver's hourly pay, for as low as $9 to $12, sometimes as high as 23 and $28 an hour. These findings run contrary to the pay figures that ride-hailing companies have provided. In the past year, Uber and Lyft have said their typical driver earns about 35 and 36 hour respectively. Meanwhile, Insider has spoken with several drivers whose pay has ranged from about 22 to 40 an hour. Five drivers even said that their driving expenses, including gas and maintenance, really only accounted between $4 and $8 an hour, which is a far cry from Lyft's 35 and 36 hourly figures. I know we talk about this a lot. I like bringing this up, and this is a brand new article, Brian, about what are drivers really making out there.
Yeah, one of the big problems with driving for rideshare and working for gig companies is really how difficult it is to figure out what your bottom line number is. Many drivers really have no idea what they're earning because it's difficult to calculate the costs. Things like gas and insurance. Sure, you can pull the receipts for that, but the wear and tear on your vehicle, the depreciation of the vehicle, large repairs that pop up one day, like how do you, as a driver, how do you factor for that, and how it affects your daily or weekly earnings? So I think what this article is highlighting is that nobody really knows. And a lot of times the numbers that you see are based on who's conducting the study. When Uber and Lyft pay for a study on driver earnings, those numbers tend to look a lot better than when a labor advocacy group is paying for the same type of study. So I would love to see, some like bipartisan or nonpartisan group in the government actually take a look at gig worker pay and make sure that there are certain standards in place so that minimum wage laws are being complied with, and certain elementary labor practices are not being violated or overlooked. So what I took away from this is not, this is how much money Uber drivers are making, but more, we don't know how much money Uber drivers are making, and we need to figure it out.
Yeah, totally. And this is where I think companies like when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Stop Club, is showing transparency in, hey, this is how much you can make on a ride. Here's actually what you're going to bring home. And I find it really frustrating that, the hourly rate for drivers is all over the map, and then when they get, a small opportunity to at least know what they're going to make per ride, Uber's, suing the hell out of these companies to say you can't show that. And it's like, how do they ever win? Because you never have it. It's just a roll of the dice every day.
That's right. And the gig companies hold all of the information, all the data, and they're in control. So we need more transparency if rideshare is going to be a viable path for any worker. Because a lot of times these are low paid workers who are just trying to go out and make a couple dollars. And when you're looking at it as, well, maybe I'll go out and get $50 in cash today, you're not really thinking about how much that is costing you. So the quick fix of money, you may just be wasting your time, and you need to know whether it's worth it to go out there.
Right, 100%. We're going to move on to Thursday. Uber is now offering self-driving cars in Phoenix, and this is from CNBC. Uber has partnered with, as most people know, the autonomous car company Waymo. Phoenix is actually the first city where Uber has publicly rolled out access to Waymo's cars, in part because it is, quote, the largest fully autonomous service area in the world. So the autonomous Uber rides will be serviced by the Waymo vehicles, and rides will be the same price as traditional car rides Uber offers. So this is really interesting. Now, they've been playing with this in Vegas, as you know, Bryant. They've been doing tests, but this is a legitimate. They're saying we're here, and it's the same price as a normal ride.
Yeah, it's scary in my mind. I don't think the technology's ready. We've seen many instances in which the technology has failed, and sometimes when people have gotten hurt as a result. We've talked about this quite a bit in that this does seem to be the path forward. This is where these tech companies are going. And, sooner rather than later, they're going to be out on the roads. I guess we're now there. But I'm just crossing my fingers that everything goes well and that the people in Phoenix, don't get hurt as a result. So I guess I would just say I hope it works. It's exciting from a technological perspective, but as a personal injury lawyer who sees people injured in and by automobiles all the time, I'm a little nervous.
I am too, and if anyone's listening who's actually been in one of these, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Some people really, at first, thought it was crazy. Some people thought it was kind of, at least what I've seen online. People say it's crazy. Some people have been like, "Oh, it's totally fine." But we've also talked on the show about the glitches. We've also seen, autonomous cars just launch off of roads, hit people. So, yeah, I guess they're just steamrolling ahead here, and hopefully it's better than not. But I agree with you. I don't think we're even close to being able to do this in a widespread way. But Uber thinks otherwise. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and I'd like to see, just on a quick note, what Phoenix got in order to allow this. Like, what is the mayor not receiving? And I'm not saying it in some sort of nefarious way, but what's the trade-off? Why is the mayor allowing the city of Phoenix to be the guinea pig? Why is Uber allowed to just navigate freely? We're based in Chicago. I would be upset if our mayor allowed that, because I don't think it's the best thing for the citizens right now. I think that there needs to be, like, go in the middle of the desert and mess around with it and set up fake cities and do the whole thing, figure it out. And then once it's ready, then we can talk about putting the public in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I don't know that obviously this article is short and sweet and just says, hey, it's coming. So yeah, that's something that we need to keep an eye on and see what happens. And if we find out, hey, there's incentives or there's something, maybe, I don't know. We're going to end the week here on Friday. Uber CEO is very confident about his future. And this is from Just Auto. They reported, quote, "We are seeing weekday commutes as a particular strength," the Uber CEO said, "as more companies like us are telling their teams, hey, let's get back to the office." He also noted that Uber has found the formula for increasing spending activity, on the platform, which focuses on getting users to use different services. He gave the example of someone who books an UberX being able to be moved to the delivery/grocery segment. Uber's Q2 2023 delivery gross bookings were up 14%. And that's an increase from 12% of growth posted in Q1 of 2023. So you kind of brought this up earlier, Brian. They keep throwing their hands in the air and say we can't afford this stuff, but then they'll go to do another interview and say, hey, we're doing great and we're going to keep growing.
I love the direction that Uber's heading. Post-pandemic, they've really grown. They've diversified, and I think it's one of the reasons why they are really coming out of the pandemic as the leader in transportation, as a leader in delivery. Where you look at companies like Lyft, who just stuck with one type of business, they just do rideshare. I think Uber's future is very bright. And to go back to your point, I wish that they would stop talking out of both sides of their mouth and saying, on one side we're doing great, and on the other side we can't pay the drivers anything. But just as a business, it seems to be going in the right direction. I'm excited about it because our business, is linked to Uber in many ways. We, if
Right.
Uber's strong, that means more people are taking rides, and there's more for us to help out on. But I tend to agree with Dara and what he's saying that the future looks bright.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You're right. I mean, there was a smart move for them to pivot into the Uber of everything. Is really, I think, what their focus is. Just use Uber app to grocery shop and get a Lyft and whatever you need. So yeah, you're right. It was a smart move. Um, so that's the end of this week. I will give you the floor here, Bryant, before we head off into the weekend.
Yeah, every time before the weekend starts, we like to remind people that should you be in an accident, should you be injured while in a rideshare vehicle, we are happy to assist. We always offer free consultations, meaning we can help put you on the right path forward before you make the insurance claim. If you need help finding medical providers, anything like that, we are here to assist. You can reach us through our website, legalrideshare.com. And never hesitate, because it's always better to talk to us sooner rather than later, to make sure that your case gets the best foundation it possibly can.
Yeah, 100%. If you guys even have questions, just reach out to us, email us, call us. We're happy to help and get you in the right direction. That's super key, as you said. Well, thank you, Brian. And as I like to say, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.